Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Free Will Dream interview portion. This is Austin. This is where we take somebody who's living life at the highest level, somebody who took a hold of their dream, went after it, and is truly living it. And we get the opportunity to sit down with this person and get some tips, tricks, techniques, philosophies that have led them to where they are. I have a special guest for you today, somebody who had the opportunity to meet over the summer, and I've had an opportunity to follow this individual, and this individual is just rocking it at life. And not only that, just has a heart to really inspire, teach, and help others. So I'm excited to have Mr. Arman Sadeghi with us on the Free Will Dream interview portion. Welcome, Arman.
Thank you so much, Austin. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and be a part of this.
Great. So let's have some fun today and inspire people. I just want to touch a little bit on your resume just to give people an idea. I want them to understand your background as we get into your story. But I know from what I've researched, you founded All Green Electronics back in 2008 after really seeing a trend that was happening with data destruction and basically, recycling electronics in a responsible way. And you took a hold of that concept. You founded your company. And it looks like you grew it to 145 employees. I don't know if it's grown since that statistic, but where are you now with that?
Yeah, we're right somewhere in the mid 100s with employees.
Okay.
We're blessed to have been named on the Inc. 5000 list. In fact, we made the Inc. 500 as the 366th fastest growing company, private company in the U.S. Last year. And so it's been a fun ride. And that's a company like you said I started because I saw an opportunity to do something, give something back to the world from the green perspective. At the same time, protect companies' data and also do what I love, which is entrepreneurship and working with people.
Right, and I know that the growth that people are going to jump when they see that growth. It's very impressive, but I don't want to overlook the fact that what you're delivering is a high value. I mean, you're really helping that culture of this electronics that just builds and builds every day. And what do we do with it? So you're definitely doing a great thing there too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
With electronics are we're replacing gadgets so quickly these days that it's already become a major problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem that is going to need to be addressed. So it's been we've been in the right place and definitely at the right time for that.
So it's a great thing, but I know you, and I've only known you a short time, but I know your heart is to teach and inspire, and you really, to contribute to others. So from that place, you founded Titanium Success about a year ago, and it's a culmination of all these philosophies and things that you've used in your life to be able to live life at the highest level. And through Titanium Success, you're now giving back through one-on-one seminars and and even your products that you're doing. So that's another great thing that you've brought to the table. So I'm excited to get into that when we get into the questions. But before that, I know you went to UC Berkeley. You graduated with a bachelor's in, I think, molecular biology. And you also went to Harvard Medical. So you got an impressive background that's led you to this point. So I know you're on a time frame here too, so I'm excited just really to jump into this content and really learn about your story. So why don't we start with, tell us a little bit about your story, and if you could work in maybe a childhood dream that you had, and let's see if that carried over into present day.
Absolutely. Well, I grew up in a sort of a middle class family in Iran. And when I was 9 years old, my parents decided they wanted to take us all to the United States and give us a bigger, better opportunity. And so we moved here as a family. When we got here, however, it wasn't exactly fun and games. I didn't speak the language. I didn't know a single word of English when I got here just a few days before my 10th birthday. My family gave up a lot to be here, so financially we were definitely not well off. But we had big dreams, and we really wanted to do big things here. And so, when I started going to school, I had really no support. No one at home spoke English to be able to help me with my homework and things like that. And at the time, in the late 80s, there was really no ESL or English as a second language program. So I was sort of just thrown into this situation, which was a sink or swim. And, as a fifth grader, it was one of the toughest times of my life. It was, I'd go to school every day. The kids would pick on me. And it was it was a situation where I really was pushed to my limits. And I'd come home every night, and literally for about a year or so, I would cry myself to sleep, literally cry every night when I was going to bed, because that's how much pressure was on me. That's how difficult it was. We were living in a small 2-bedroom condominium for a certain period of time with family who was kind enough to take us in, but there's 5 of us. And there was a total of 12 people living in this little house. Wow. In Orange County, which is a really nice place, but it's tough to have that many people in a single house. It was great. It was a blessing to be around people I loved, but it was also tough. And so, through watching my parents work their butts off, and just working 2 jobs, doing whatever they could to get us out of that situation, I learned from a very young age that life was something where you had to work hard to succeed. And so I started when I was 11 years old. I got my first job as a paper boy. And, you can say the kid who was on that bike delivering those papers is still the person who is in charge in my life, because I learned so many lessons delivering those papers. Little kid riding a little bike, delivering 52 papers a day. And it was a lot of work, and my parents were smart in that they supported me, but they didn't help me with it. Even on the days that it was raining and, it was a Sunday morning, let's say, delivering these big papers, all my dad would do is he would say, okay, I'll put the papers in the trunk of the car and I'll drive behind your bike, but you're still going to ride your own bike. And at the time I thought, man, this guy's mean. Right. But now I look back, and it taught me those lessons. And I remember I'd ride my bike and fall over, and cut my knee and bleed and things like that. But it didn't matter. The job had to get done, and I had to deliver those 52 papers. And in order to grow my paper route, I had to sell more subscriptions. Back in those days, delivering the paper as a paper boy, you collected the money yourself. So if someone didn't pay, it came out of my pocket. It was incredible that it was set up that way. But thank goodness, because it taught me business, it taught me entrepreneurship, it taught me sales, taught me customer service. My dream came true after my first month. I got to buy myself a Nintendo, which is what all the other kids had, and something I didn't get to have, and I got it for myself. And I remember going to Target and buying it for $99.99 plus tax. Right. And doing it with my own money was amazing. But that stage in my life taught me so much about what it really took to succeed. At the same time, I was working hard, and I was learning how to make money, but I was still struggling in school with the kids picking on me, with the language barrier, things like that. And it caused me to have take a great interest in human beings, because I couldn't understand why they treated me so harshly. And they were so mean to me, and they were so, abusive, physically, verbally, in every way, that instead of sort of rolling over and dying, which was one option, the other option was to hate them and to take that approach. Yeah. And there was a third option, which was to see something beautiful about the fact that human beings can act in such a way. And I wanted to try to figure them out. And that led me down a journey, which since then it's been almost 30 years. And I went on this journey to discover what human beings were all about, what made them do the things they did, and realizing during that path that it was because they were in pain. That's why they did those things to me. And so I took a great interest in trying to work with people and find out how I can help them improve their lives. And my success as an entrepreneur, I've had somewhere around 12 companies. In fact, today I have 7 different businesses. All Green and Titanium are 2 of the 7 that you mentioned. But the reason that I'm able to succeed in business is purely because of my love in people. And that's why, you mentioned I started Titanium a year ago. That was the reason I started it, was because I saw, I have these companies, I have all these other businesses, but the part I love most about these businesses is coaching my employees, helping them grow, making them the best they can be. And I finally said, it's time to make that a reality. And so that, my childhood dream of wanting to figure out what made people do the things they did and how to help them be at their best, how to help them turn their negatives into positives, and and at the same time be able to provide for my family, including, my wife and kids, but also my extended family, and my family of people in the world, and trying to put all that together. And, I've been blessed. I'm 37 years old, and everything's been coming together really nicely to put me on that path where I'm making these things a reality. Not only have I made them a reality in my life, but now I'm blessed to be able to make them a reality in other people's lives.
Yeah, it's an amazing. You're an amazing man. What the story you've had so far, and I heard a lot of things in there. And number one, the work ethic, which you learned early on, and I so agree with your dad. I mean, I know it probably wasn't a good thing at the time, but just allowing you to struggle. Yes. And I think it's a key for parents today, just allowing their kids to maybe struggle a little bit at the right time so they learn those things. And your dad did that. And then just the contribution piece. And I guess it's safe to say, based on what you said, that titanium success may just be your life dream. Is that what I heard you say through this? Absolutely, no question.
Okay. I mean, ever since I can remember, I loved helping people, working with people, and titanium's been my mission for a long time. And I kept postponing that mission because I felt like, I needed to, for a big portion of my life, most of my 30s and my 20s and 30s, I always wanted to make money first and then contribute later. And while I contributed financially, I didn't contribute as much of myself as I wanted to. And so now with titanium, I have an opportunity to contribute, and I'm blessed to be living my dream and the thing that I've wanted ever since I can remember.
That's a great thing you just brought up, and I want to go on that a little bit, because as people venture out to do something and they want to go after a life dream, what is it about? Is it about the money, or is it about the life dream? So many people say, I got to make the money, and it's real. Like, we have to make money. But sitting from where you are now, how do you view that? The money versus the dream, like, what comes first there? Or maybe there's no right answer, but how do you look at that?
Well, for me, I think it's a simple answer to that. And it's something I applied in my life, and I love teaching it to other people. And I say that before you live your dream and you go after the thing that you think you're going to love, and really before you do what you love, you have to learn to love what you do. And I think that's a really critical thing. For a lot of people, they live their lives with these dreams similar to the dreams that I've had. And I still have to this day, of course, as we all do, because we all want bigger and better things, and we want more of ourselves. We expect more of ourselves. But it's about understanding that it's not just saying I'm going to do what I love. And while I'm waiting to do what I love, I'm going to sort of barely get through life and barely make it and not be happy and not have fulfillment. It's about learning to love what you do in pursuit of what it is that you love. And so when it comes to talking about, is it, do you go after the money or do you go after what you love? I think absolutely you've got to go after what you love, because that's what's going to give you ultimate fulfillment in life. But at the same time, an income is simply a measure of how much value you're adding to society. So if in the pursuit of living your dream, you're using that as an excuse to not have an income for yourself and not provide for yourself, sometimes that's a very convenient excuse to, unfortunately, waste a decade or even decades of your life, waiting for, one day I'm going to do what I love. And so for me, what I've done in my life and what I tell other people to do is I say, I don't care where you're at right now. I don't care what you're doing right now and where you want to be, what your ultimate goal is in life and what you think you love to do. You better learn to love what you do today. Because if you're working at a fast food chain, mopping the floors today, and you don't learn to love that, when you're doing your dream, it's important to realize that 90% of the time when you're living your dream, you're doing things that are the equivalent of mopping the floor at a fast food chain. It's stuff that you don't love. You still have to go through the basic motions of any business or any venture that you get into. And so I think it's critical for people to learn to love what they're doing at the time. And when you learn to love what you do, suddenly I think your mind is able to to really think freely about what you truly want to do with your life and what you really love to do. And for a lot of people, they don't even know what they love yet. If they're young, if they're in their late teens, early 20s, even to late 20s and early 30s, many people just don't know what, they don't know what that thing for them is. And there's nothing wrong with that. Learn to love what you're doing. At the same time, of course, you've got to pursue the things you want. So I love a quote by Jim Rohn. It's probably one of my favorite quotes of all time. Mm-hmm. He says, the secret to life is to love who you are and what you have while pursuing everything that you want.
Yes.
And I think that applies to your dreams in life very well.
Yeah, that's a great distinction. A great distinction that you can pick up on. It's kind of like grow where you're planted, and as you move forward, and truly appreciate where you are. So we kind of covered this, but what was your life like before you truly discovered your dream? We could elaborate on that a little bit more, but you were already following that philosophy. You were growing with where you were planted, and while you were pursuing, the titanium piece.
Yeah, well, I mean, for many years, when you look at my educational history, you can see I really didn't necessarily know exactly what I wanted to do. I know my dream was to help people, right? So I knew that I was all about giving to people and helping, and I wanted to change lives. But when you look at my, what I studied in school, I studied molecular and cell biology, as you said, with an emphasis in neuroscience. And that neuroscience piece today, of course, helps me a lot with what I'm doing. And then I went to Harvard Medical School thinking that the way that I wanted to help people was to, cure them of disease and help them in a medical way. And somewhere along the line, I've come to the realization that although that would have been a beautiful way to live my life, and it actually would have fulfilled my dream, it wouldn't have fulfilled it to the extent of doing it in this other manner, which is instead of, seeing patients and treating them medically, that I can work with them to tap into their own internal resources. And so, I went through many years of that in my 20s where I knew what I wanted to do, but I had no idea how to do it. And I think that's where a lot of people find themselves. Yeah. I didn't use it as an excuse, though. I said, I know what I love. I want to help people. And I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that. But, I'm going to start marching forward. And I'm going to start rowing. I'm going to start moving forward. And if it turns out that I go west and really I should have gone northwest or north or even east, hey, that's fine. I'll get some practice rowing, and whatever I pick up along the way is going to help me. And it's been a true blessing because, of course, the things I learned going to Berkeley, studying neuroscience, and things I learned in medical school today helped me tremendously. Even though I don't use those degrees, the knowledge I gained and the work ethic I gained there has been a huge part of what titanium is today.
It's awesome. And another key point there, before you know exactly how, take that next logical step, move forward, and then you'll see the next step you should take. So it's great advice. How did you really discover your dream? Like, when did you really discover it? How did you discover it? Like, when did you say, that's it?
I don't know if that moment has ever come for me. I don't know if there was a moment where I said, that's it. I'm 37 years old. Hey, maybe when I'm 60, we can redo this interview and I'll say, I don't know, it was when I was 47 years old. But I don't know if that moment has ever come. And I'm excited about that because I meet so many people who are waiting for that moment where they know exactly what they want to do. They want that moment where they know exactly how to do it. And it, just the light comes on and everything is perfect. And I've never had that moment, and I don't think most people have a moment like that. So my message to people is, listen, just like you just said, think about what you want to do and start working towards that direction, and the details will work themselves out. And I have a very deep faith in God, and I have a great connection with God, and I'm a very spiritual person. And, I pray every night. And when I pray, that's one of the things I pray for is for guidance. Because, I don't know the road better than anybody else does. There's 6 billion of us on this planet. I don't think anyone really has it all figured out. Right. So we gain a little bit every day, and that's how I live my life. But to answer part of that question, although there was never a moment where the light bulb went off, There was an incident that happened to me about a year ago where I almost died in an accident.
Wow.
And when I woke up in the hospital, that's when I decided that I wasn't going to wait for titanium anymore. I decided that, hey, I keep saying I'm going to do this thing. And I had this thing that I've been saying for 20 years that I was going to start this journey when I turned 40. And the plan was that I would make enough money. I would have all the financial resources to be able to give back to the world. And here I am, 36 years old. I wake up in a hospital bed after being out with my wife, and the details of the event aren't that important. But I woke up in a hospital bed, 12 broken bones on the side of my face. And a doctor telling me I needed to have facial reconstructive surgery. This is just a year ago. Wow. And in that moment, instead of feeling down or feeling like the world was ending for me it was like, wow, I lived, I'm alive.
Wow.
And you know what? I'm not going to let my dream pass me up even one more minute. And all this is happening as the plastic surgeon is telling me about the facial reconstructive surgery that he's going to perform on me. And a beautiful thing happened. For years, there's a song that by David Guetta, it's Titanium. And this has been a song that I love, and it's sort of my theme song. In fact, it's a song that my wife used for her ringtone for me for years. Okay. And I, when I was struggling at any point in business or anything over the last few years, I always said, I'm titanium. And that's what, got me to go and move forward. Wow. And here, as I'm thinking about my future and that's it, God gave me another chance at life, and I'm not going to blow it. I'm not going to wait till I'm 40 to make enough money, because, when I turned 39, I would have just pushed 40 back to 45 and said, let me make another couple million. Let me, buy another house, buy another car, and then I'll live my dream. Right. And so as all this is going through my head, the doctor is explaining the procedure, and then he says, and so Arman, what we're going to do is we're going to reconstruct your face using titanium plates. And my eye socket had been crushed, shattered. And so he said, we're going to reconstruct your eye socket using titanium. And I'm thinking, if there was a message I was ever waiting for, here it is, because I'm actually going to be titanium. And so today, as I speak with you, everything is healed up. But there's a lot of titanium inside of there. So when I named my venture, this company, this beautiful thing that I'm doing with my life, Titanium, it comes from that. And I'm blessed to have had that experience, because at that moment, there was no question in my mind that I wasn't going to push it off anymore. I was going to just live it starting that moment.
Wow. What a story. I did not know that story. That's an amazing story. And the one thing that I just want to touch on is that a lot of people have adversity in their lives. And you got two choices. You can use it as a crutch that prevents you from moving forward, or you can take it, grab a hold of it, and make it a strength. And that's exactly what you did. And not to mention the metaphor here with the titanium is unbelievable. But wow.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I go back to when I say I was 11 years old, and I used to fall off the bike, and I would be bleeding, my knees would be bleeding or whatever. And it wasn't about sitting and I would cry. This is the important part. I would cry. I would be bleeding, and I would start crying because I was an 11-year-old kid. If I didn't cry, then there was something wrong with me, right?
Right.
Tears would be pouring down my eyes, but you know what? I would get back on that bike.
Absolutely.
And bloody leg, tears coming down my face, crying as much as, you could. 11-year-old is in pain. You know how they get.
Yep.
But I would still pedal that bike, and I would go deliver that next paper. And to this day, I realized, that's what life is all about. You're on that bike, you're going to fall off. If you think if you're waiting for the moment that you're going to stop failing, the only time you're going to stop failing is when your time on this earth is done. From now until you get there, you're going to fail constantly. I mean, I have throughout my life. I've had failure after failure, and that's a good thing, because every failure I've had has made me stronger. And so, I might bleed, I might even cry, but hey, you know what? I'm not going to stop pedaling, and I'm not going to get off the bike and stay off the bike. I'm getting back on that bike, because I remember the next paper had to get delivered, and I wasn't about to let people down. And, Mr. and Mrs. Jones down the street needed to read their paper, and it was my job to deliver that paper. And at the time, that was my mission. So when I tell people, you got to love what you do before seeking to do what you love, that's what I'm talking about. Because if I don't deliver Mr. and Mrs. Jones' paper on that random Tuesday, so Mr. Jones can see how his favorite sports team did the next day, if I don't put value, tons and tons of value on making sure that happens, then fast forward 30 years, me sitting here with you today, if I get a call from someone who is suicidal or going through a really difficult time in their lives, and I can literally save that person's life, getting the paper there on time when I was 11 years old was just as important as saving someone's life in that situation today. And that's when I learned those lessons. So I still live by them. That 11-year-old kid knew a lot, and he's taught me a lot.
That's amazing. That's an amazing metaphor there too. But if you're watching this right now, if you're going through something, do it now. Get back up and take that next logical step. I mean, it's right here. It's a great metaphor, great story that you deliver. So as you're watching this and you're going through a tough time and you don't know what to do, just do the very next logical step that comes to mind. So that's great. Do you remember the moment you believed your dream was possible? For you, you might say, you know what, because you've loved what you've done all up to that point, so maybe it's a little different, but I'd love to hear what you had to say about that. Do you remember the moment you believed your dream was possible?
It's that's such a great question, Austin. I love these questions because they make me think. People. I do interviews all the time, and the questions you're asking me are making me think in a way that I haven't thought. Right. In some cases, maybe ever. So thank you for that. The moment I thought my dreams were possible. I think it's the same answer that I gave before, that I've always known my dreams were possible, but at the same time, there's never been something in my mind that has said that they're absolutely possible and within my reach. Even as I just had my last seminar where I was blessed, we had 190 registered participants. It was incredible. And as I'm about to go on stage and I look into this packed room where we've had to add tables and chairs because we weren't prepared to have so many people, as I'm looking at the audience, I step onto the stage, I'm seeing these people. I'm living my dream, that's it. But there's still a part of your mind that's always going to question things. And,
sure.
So I can't tell you that there's ever been a moment where I knew with 100% certainty that my dreams were possible, but I do hold the belief that anything is possible, and I can make anything possible for myself. And so, because of that, I guess you could say I've always known that it was possible.
Yes. Well, I think and as I'm listening to you and hearing your story, and you're kind of similar to me in a sense that work ethic. When you lead with that work ethic, the things ultimately become possible, even if you don't believe them in the moment. You may not have that 100% certainty, like we may never get that. But if we want to take that next logical step and we have that work ethic and we're going to make sure that paper gets there on time, it's like all of a sudden the road starts to unfold, and then our belief level starts to increase through those actions. And I think as I'm listening to you, I'm kind of hearing that theme here, with the work ethic and blazing your own trail, and then the bar gets higher and what becomes possible becomes bigger in scope. And to the point now you're doing Titanium Success, and now you're, giving that back to other people. That's
dead on. Perfect. Beautifully said, Austin.
So here, I like to tap into people's emotions because, in the work that you do, especially with using NLP and things like that, there's emotions that trigger people. So I wanted to, what was there a particular emotion involved that triggered you to pursue this event? You spoke about, I call it a life-altering situation, a circumstance that happened to you.
Yes.
Do you remember the emotion in that moment that said, that's it, I'm doing it?
Well, you imagine you wake up in a hospital room with injuries that make you realize that you're mortal. The emotion I'm not sure what I would call it, but it was this feeling of feeling mortal and thinking that, yes, I have all these visions of, watching my two little girls go to school and watching them get married and, growing old with my wife, and all these visions of, what my life is going to be like when I'm 60 or 70 or 80 years old, but realizing that none of that is guaranteed. There's no guarantee that I'm going to be here tomorrow. And so it was this feeling of sort of just I don't know if it's desperation. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what it is, but just knowing that nothing was going to be guaranteed, and that today was the only thing I could count on, because when I go to sleep, I just don't know if tomorrow's going to be around. And so I'm going to live today with everything that I've got, and I'm going to give today my heart, my soul, my everything, and hopefully tomorrow and the next day and the next year and the next decade and century will come, right? And I'll be prepared for them when I do. But no sense that it's a given that any of that is going to happen. And so that feeling of mortality made me just make decisions that day that were powerful, very powerful, and scary at the time, by the way. Sure. They weren't easy decisions to make. It sounds easy when you look back and look at the dream coming together, but there's no guarantee that first seminar I put on, there's no guarantee anybody's showing up. Right. And so and there's no guarantee that I was going to deliver at the level I thought I could deliver, and that I would alter people's lives and things. And but obviously I've been blessed. It has all worked out beautifully. So it's been great. But that moment was a like you said, very, very much a life altering or life changing moment.
Yeah, and I think desperation's probably a good word, because I don't know who said the quote, but they say people change out of one of two things: inspiration or desperation.
Yes. And
in your situation is once you see that finality, that there's an end to this, because a lot of times we live life day to day unthinkingly, not realizing that this is going to end someday. And I know it's morbid to go down there, but I do think it's worth going there, because it helps you put your today's activities into perspective and really helps you hone in. Am I doing the most important things? Am I living life at the highest level? What more could I do? So I think that's a great way to put it. Desperation is a great word.
Right. And, if I can add something Sure. to that, also I take that concept and I apply it to people, because, when you see people in your life, whether it's the lady working at the grocery store or someone you love dearly, you never really know if there's going to be another opportunity to see that person again, because who knows if, again, that night I might not have made it. And of course, there's no guarantee that the people I love, or just that person at the grocery store, if they're going to be around tomorrow. So I think that in every interaction with other people, I'm not saying you go through life paranoid that every time you see someone you may never see them again, but right. If there's any hatred or any pain or any anger or any resentment or anything like that, I choose to sort of let it go and let the negatives go, because I don't want to carry that around in my heart. And on the other hand, if there's any love I have towards someone or anything I feel that's a positive thing, as much as possible. Now I'm not perfect at this either, but as much as possible, I like to let them know, because you never know. That's right. And that's a big part of what I teach these days with Titanium, is teaching people to express those positive thoughts. Whether you see someone and you like the way their hair is done that day, or the shirt they're wearing, or you just want to tell someone you love them, and how grateful you are for what they've done for you in your life. Sometimes that opportunity never comes. And you never know when that day is going to be. I just had one of my employees, really great kid. His father just passed away, and he rushed into my office as soon as he got the call, which showed me how much he values our relationship, that I'm the first person he came to. And he was in my office seconds after hearing that his father had passed. And, you could just see he had this thing like, my gosh, there's so many more things I wanted to tell him. I say live every day, with all the all the love you have in your heart and show that to people, because you never know if you'll have another opportunity.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. I'm glad you added that on there. There's one of the things we work on with Free Will Dream is always be working on your belief. It's a kind of a mantra I've adapted because, as you just said, you're not always 100% certain. So one of the questions I wanted to bring up is, what was your belief level before you started to pursue titanium, and what is it now? And obviously it ebbs and flows, but what would you say if you could compare the two? What was it on a scale of 1 to 10 before, and what was it on a scale of 1 to 10 after you were like in mid action?
Yeah. Well, I mean, before, obviously, a lot of disbelief. The little voice, I always talk about this little voice in your head. It's the little voice that tells you to snooze your alarm clock in the mornings. It's
right.
That little voice that
I
tells
know
you.
that voice.
Yeah, we all hear it.
Right.
Sometimes much more often than we'd like. But
right.
yeah, that little voice that says, no, you need the extra sleep. Get an extra 30 minutes of sleep and you'll do better today because you'll be more fresh. Well, that little voice is also the little voice that tells you, no, be reasonable. Don't reach for that dream. That's you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not, whatever enough. And we all have it. And I certainly, of course, have it today. And I've calmed it down a lot.
Right.
It used to be that it was an overpowering thing in my life where it was always telling me, that I wasn't enough and I didn't have it in me and I wasn't good enough yet. And so, but then once I started to live the dream and I started taking action, although nothing changed in me, I didn't have any new tools, I didn't have any new knowledge, I had nothing more than I had before. Wow. Suddenly it seemed like that voice just started quieting down, and every once in a while it would completely shut up for a short period of time. Wow. And it was beautiful because my subconscious mind was seeing, wow, this is happening, right? These things are real, and it was that voice just started to quiet down, and it's still, it pokes its head out every once in a while, but
right.
But I've gotten really good at shutting it up, and so that disbelief is, if you want me to put numbers on it, that. I don't know, but it was maybe a 2 or 3 out of 10 of how strongly I felt I could make my dreams a reality before I started taking action. And as I started taking action, I have moments where it's at a 10. Wow. Sometimes when it drops to a 9 or an 8. But because I've seen the evidence now, it's always at an 8 or above for me.
Wow. Yeah, and just let's bring up a point here. The voice never goes away, right? No matter what level you are. Right, it never goes away.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't. But it's the key thing, and that's why I asked this question, because just to bring up a point that once you really get into action, it's almost like you're in control now. The voice might be there, but it's not dominating you. And wow, and you said 2 or 3, and that's amazing. I mean, and you're a pretty successful guy, and you were at a 2 or 3. So if people are listening to this, it doesn't matter where you are before. It just matters, again, just to get into action and take that next logical step. So
yeah,
great stuff.
And action is where all the fun is anyways. Yeah. The beautiful saying that life is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
The action is where all the fun is. So even if you're unsure, okay, great, take action, have a good time. And if it works the way you think it is, great. If it works out even better, beautiful. And if it doesn't work out as well as you thought, hey, guess what? You get to take more action in a different direction and in a smarter way. And you're going to fall off that bike and you're going to bleed. And, if you got to cry, but get back on the bike and keep going.
There you go. So to the point of action, can you recall the first thing you did after you decided to pursue your dream?
Yeah, that's one that I can tell you. I believe in this thing called public declarations. And so when you decide something, I believe you just start telling people. And so, some of the folks who have been to my seminar, if you go on Facebook, there's all these public declarations, people putting themselves on a video and saying these big things and,
right.
and writing posts and things like that, in addition to just making phone calls to people. And so what I did was, it was a really, really bold move. I scheduled my first seminar. I told my wife, I said, hey, what are you doing on, I think it was May 15th. I said, what are you doing May 15th? And she said, I don't know. I said, check your calendar. Are you in town? And, she checked the date and she said, yeah, I'm in town. I said, great, because I'm doing a seminar. And I'm going to have, I forget what number I told her, but something like at least 50 people at this seminar. And she looked at me, and at first she may have thought I was crazy, but then she's heard me make these crazy declarations before, and I always follow through with them. And so I started just telling people, and to me, that those public declarations, and there were times, I'm telling you, March, April, early May are coming around, and I'm thinking, what the heck was I thinking? How am I going to pull off a seminar in May? Like, I should have given myself 2 years to do this.
Right.
And, but hey, the date was set. It was on the calendar. I declared it publicly to a lot of people, and I had no choice. And thank goodness I had no choice, because I would have backed out 100 times if I did have a choice, but I didn't. So here we are.
Yeah. And it's about, again, putting yourself out there and taking the risk, doing what you maybe you think you can't do. And wow, that's pretty amazing. So how many people showed up at that first one? Do you remember? I think we had a little over 80. Wow. So you overachieved. You overshot your goal.
I worked hard, and it wasn't easy. And there were moments where I didn't know if even 15 people would show up or 10 people. But it worked out, because I wasn't. Again, I was that kid on the bike. I was gonna deliver the 52 papers, and in this case, I'm gonna get at least 50 people there, no matter what it took.
That's awesome.
And so yeah. It was a beautiful thing.
And now you're over double that. So. That's great.
Thank you.
Describe a moment when you finally, and I love this question because it's going to jog your memory. Was there a moment that you remember where you said, where it kind of kicked in and said, now I'm living my dream?
Yeah, it has to be when I was on stage, and a couple people started commenting, and I was in the portion of my seminar where I was talking about finances, and I had a couple of friends in the audience who are very, very financially well off, really smart people, and I was talking about how to invest, and I was talking about what to do to get your finances in order. And one of my friends who I've known since, I've known him for almost 30 years now, he stood up, he raised his hand and stood up, and I was a little, inside I was a little worried that, he was going to get up and say, Arman, no, you're wrong about this, because this guy's got more experience in this realm than I could ever have in a lifetime. And this is all he's done, is real estate investment and things like that. And he stood up and he said, Arman, this piece of information you're sharing is so incredibly valuable. And then he turns to the audience and he says, guys, if any of you had called me and wanted me to give you this information, I probably would have charged you, and I don't know what number he said, like $10,000 just for this bit. And here Arman is just giving it to you as part of this. And it was that moment that I thought, wow, like, that I can actually change people's lives delivering these messages. And then, fast forward a couple of weeks, and now we're getting people reporting back their results. And so I guess if there were two moments, one was when he made that comment, but then, the second moment would be when I got some calls from people who I did not think were the type of people who would change. And they're calling me saying, Arman, my relationship with my wife is the best it's ever been, and I owe it to you. Somebody else calling me and saying, Arman, I've lost 15 pounds and I feel amazing. My relationship with my patients, and this was my sister. She said, my relationship with my patients has never been this amazing. She's a medical doctor, gastroenterologist, and she said, you've totally changed my business and my practice, and the way that I treat the patients and the way I treat the nurses and the hospital staff. Wow. And I was like, wow, it's happening. It's real.
Powerful stuff, man. That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
What advice would you give someone who hasn't found their dream yet, or has a dream but they have doubts about pursuing it?
Well, if you haven't found your dream yet, advice is very simple. Whatever you're doing today, start learning to love what you do today, because that's how you're going to find what you love. Your dream, if we say there's an equivalent between living your dream and loving what you do, then you've got to that first step is whatever you're doing today. I don't care what it is. I don't care whether you think it's good or bad. And maybe you don't like your job and you want to go look for a new job. That's fine. But while you're looking for a new job, still enjoy what you're doing and enjoy the process of finding a job. So if you don't know what you love, then it's because you haven't spent enough time loving what you do. Spend a little bit more time. Maybe it's a few weeks, a few months, a few years. I don't know where you're at in your life, but spend some time loving whatever it is you're doing in the moment. And suddenly your dreams will start finding you. And if you have a dream and you just haven't started, working towards it yet, take action. Take action today. And the first piece of action you can take is public declarations.
There you go.
If you're watching this interview, and there's a little pause button there, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if Austin is okay with you guys going away for a minute and coming back, but, pause this thing. Go on Facebook, go on your email, pick up your phone, and declare publicly what you're going to do. And put a time limit on it. Put something on it that scares you a little bit. And, and once you declare, and publicly could be to just one person, it could be to a group of people, it could be to the whole world. But then just start taking those steps. And that first step is by far the hardest. And people seldom recognize that. But that first step, once you take it, the second through the 5 millionth step are get easier and easier as you go.
Yeah, and I can remember you were talking about the public declaration. I'm going back and remembering when I did that and announcing that I wanted to help 10,000 people fulfill their life dream. It was such a bold step, but everything started to really propel from there. And I got, the critics came out and people said crazy things. So you got to expect that. You're going to get people saying things that are not encouraging, but you move on anyway. And once you do it, I do believe that. So that's great advice.
And by the way, the critics coming out is just a sign that you're finally on your way.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
I mean, that's a part of it. In fact, look for that. Hope for that, because if no one questions what you're doing and no one is a critic and no one tells you you're crazy, that's when I'd be concerned, because maybe you're just not reaching high enough. But when you start reaching, people are going to come out. People are going to tell you, and it's not just that little voice, because you've got a little voice. But here's the thing. Everybody has a little voice too. Yeah. And the people you don't know have little voices.
Right.
That tell them things. And to this day, my last seminar, the day before the seminar, I got, here I am putting on this beautiful event that's going to help people, and financially, I had no expectation of it being financially successful. In fact, it was a huge financial loss for me, the last event, that I didn't care. That's not why I was doing it. I knew it's an investment in my future, an investment in changing people's lives. But even the day before the event, I had multiple people contact me via Facebook, and basically people who didn't know me, and question my ethics, question my values, question my intentions, question all kinds of things.
Right.
And even one person who attacked me and said, "How dare you tell people that you're going to change their lives? That's you're making a claim that no one should make." And someone else attacking me and saying, I was full of it and I didn't care about people. And these are people who don't even know me. Now, why they would think these things, who knows? But I was very kind and gracious towards them, because I realized that if they're attacking me like this, just like those kids in 5th grade, there's probably a lot of hurt and pain inside of them, and I should be there for them. And I did my best to do that. But the critics are always going to come out, and some of them are the biggest critics are the people who love you the most.
That's true.
It's to be expected, and it's a sign that you're headed in the right direction.
Right, and so just to reframe that, when it does happen, you may feel it a little bit in the moment, because obviously someone's coming at you, but just to reframe it and say, this is supposed to happen.
Yes.
Arman said it, this is supposed to happen, just move on. So, great. I'm glad you brought that up. So just closing here, just a couple questions. What fulfills you most about your dream? And then what's next from there for you? What's next for you?
Yeah, what fulfills me most is seeing results in people's lives, seeing people, lose weight, seeing people improve their financial situation, seeing people find love that they've been lacking for so long, seeing people build a beautiful relationship, and seeing the results to me are just incredible. And sometimes it's not even seeing the results physically happen It's knowing in my mind, looking at someone who I'm coaching, or someone who's in a seminar or something like that, and looking at them and knowing that their life is about to change. I have a lot of business coaching clients, and I take on very, very few clients one-on-one. I limit it to just 10 clients one-on-one for business. And so as I'm coaching these folks one-on-one, sometimes I'll say something and then I'll know, my goodness, what I just said to them is going to mean another $1 million in their business, or what I just said to them is going to completely change their business. It's going to change some aspect of their life or their business. Mm-hmm. And it's just that knowing that then drives me to talk to the next, 100 people or the next 1,000 hours or whatever. So, and I forgot the second part of your question, Austin.
What was next? What's next for you?
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, what's next for me is I want to influence more people. We had 200, almost 200 people, 190 registered guests at the last event, and I want to have even more next time. I want to do more events. I want to spend more face-to-face time with people. I want to influence more and more lives. So I see in my future, and here's a public declaration for you. I see in my future, I have visions of me on a stage with thousands of people in the audience, and me changing their lives, not just me talking at them, but really changing thousands of lives in a single room. And I see it, and I'm going to make it a reality. Again, it's going to be a lot of hard work. I'm going to fall off the bike. I'm going to bleed. I'm going to cry, but I'm going to make it a reality. And there's nothing that can stop me.
That's awesome, man. Public declaration here. I wrote it down. 1,000. And, I hope we get a chance to do this again, because your journey is happening now. You're living your dream, and I just want to make a point that you are somebody who's walking your talk. I mean, you're living it every day. It's not like you read a book or you went to school. I mean, you're living it every day. And the one thing I didn't bring up in the beginning, but I just want to bring up now, is that one of the most important things is that you're a loving husband and you're a father of 2 daughters. And all the success in the world doesn't matter if you don't have that in place, and you have that too. So you're walking your talk, and I really enjoyed our time today. And I always tell people, like, watch these interviews again, because there's things in here that you might not get the first time. This one particularly, there's a lot of moments. I'm going to go back and watch this again and take some notes, because there was some things that we had a chance to hit on, but there's some things that I feel like I missed. I want to go back on. So I appreciate your time. Any closing remarks you want to close with?
Yeah, I love what you just said about my wife and kids, and I want to just reframe that in a sort of the way that I talk about it as part of the Titanium Success Method. And it's that I take life and separate it into 10 different categories and 10 different pieces of the pie. Now, you can slice it in so many different ways, but the way I've chosen to slice it is to have slices of, for example, intimate relationship, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, finances, your mission and your career, contribution, things like that. And when you look at life, the way that I define the word success is to have success in all of those areas. Because if you're succeeding in 7 of the 10, or even 8 of the 10 at a very high level, but there are 2 of them that you're not succeeding on, you're not going to find true fulfillment in your life. And so, you're absolutely right, Austin. In my life, I put a lot of emphasis on all the different slices of that pie, including my incredible relationship with my wife. I've been with her for 8 years, and we have a beautiful friendship and a beautiful relationship. My 2 little girls, who I adore, but my wife will always come before them. And that's one of the things that I teach, is that your spouse comes before your children. Otherwise, you're not going to have that. So I've been blessed to have this opportunity to help people and to deliver this message to them. And my closing remarks are: make sure you do understand that there are at least 10 different pieces of that pie, and focus on trying to get all of them to be in a level that you're happy with, because then you'll find true fulfillment in life.
Great advice. And you touched service on a couple of things. If people want to get more information about what you're doing, I believe your website's titaniumsuccess.com. Is that right?
That is
Right.
correct. Titaniumsuccess.com.
So you can plug into that website. Arman has some things up there, some videos, some products that you can plug into if you want to get more information to learn more. But again, I appreciate your time, man, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again soon.
Thank you, Austin, and good for you, man, for living your dream and for helping people make their dreams a reality. That's a beautiful thing, and I'm glad to see you doing it. And thanks again. I'm very appreciative of the fact that you had me as a part of this. So
yes. You're on a short list, Arman. So good stuff, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Bye.